It's the code word.
Didn't Aaron play that at your wedding?
My first wedding, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll never forget my aunt and uncle dancing to
Yeah,
that.
that was funny.
uh, well, I think we're live. So, welcome everybody to Kitchen Sink Microscopy, your favorite place to be on Sunday. Uh, we have, I think, Erik, you have a topic idea for today based off of another YouTube channel that you frequent.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a channel, Demcad, Reginald Keigler, like been watching his videos for the longest time. He's like a prepper guy for the most part. But he does like random videos commenting on just general things, news, stuff like that. And he kind of did this shorter video recently, like basically yesterday, I think, saying, "Is America still America?" Basically, the divisions between people have widened, like the chasms. Society is no longer really quite cohesive. Um, like they're basically, boy, there's so many points, but one of the points that he made essentially was like, in the past we did have political divides between people in the country, but generally it was like, oh, everybody could recognize, they generally agreed on the problems that needed to be addressed, but disagreed on the methodology on how to solve those problems. And now we're in a state where politically most people uh, don't agree on on the same problems, and then of course disagree again, as always, on the methodology. But now it's like an example would be, say on the right you have a lot of people who are 2A people, and like, oh, the Second Amendment, preserving gun rights is the most important thing, and freedom of speech and this and that. And then like on the left there's people who are like, climate change is the most important thing. And the two don't see eye to eye on those problems even being like existing. um
Well, yeah, the most important thing is always in a state of flux, and it really doesn't matter what it is because you can't just focus on one thing at a time anyway. Like,
mhm.
you have to be paying attention to a lot of different things. In the same token, though, you can't pay attention to everything, like
No.
absolutely everything, because part of this divide is whenever you do care about something, invariably someone comes along and they're like, why don't you care about this or that thing that happened, or this is going on right now, and blah, blah, blah. And you can't care about that until you care about this. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what?
But exactly, like when it, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, it's impossible to be aware of all the goings on all the time.
Right.
And the person, like you're saying, that you're a hypothetical person, they probably aren't aware of things that you're aware of. And so, of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's a lot to know, and you can't know it all. You can't have your finger on the pulse of everything. Um, and yeah, and we have a finite amount of resources on Earth and within governments and just individuals and things like that. There's only so much we can do, and if you divide your attention between too many things, you end up diluting your efficacy, to the point where, like, oh well, oh well, we only put like 6 cents towards everything now because we're taking on everything,
Yeah.
and that's stupid. So I think maybe identifying, prioritizing, triaging, right, the circumstances to make sure that we're doing the most work to the most important things, like putting the most attention that we can towards really important stuff.
Yeah.
But then again, that was the point of the video, is that so many people disagree on what's important.
Yeah. I I remember growing up when I would, you know, I didn't pay attention to politics really at all. I mean, what kid does? Like, what normal kid anyway? You shouldn't.
Nerd.
Well, no, I didn't pay
No,
attention.
I know, but it would be the person who does would be the
Yeah.
nerd, you know?
But like when I noticed people talking about it, like they might be talking about something and one person would be like, "Oh yeah, well I tend to vote Republican," and then like they'd be like, "Oh okay, yeah," and that would kind of be it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, like if anyone got heated about politics, they were kind of like getting themselves worked up about too much tax, and that was kind of a Republican and Democrat thing. Like everyone agreed there's too many taxes. Nobody
Yes.
likes tax. And I think everyone does still agree on that. But now they feel the need to throw blame around like, well, there's too much tax because of blah, blah, blah. And
Oh yeah. Oh well, and of course we know the age old uh story of or the timeline, I guess, of you like if you have the red team is in power for their term and they do things and then they're blaming the last administration and then the red team loses and now it's the blue team and they're blaming the previous administration for everything and it's like look it doesn't I don't fucking care who caused it. It's something we need to address. Just do it. Get her done, right? Like the people politics tends to be all about spinning the wheels, just complaining and just talking and never actually doing anything. And it's
yeah,
very infuriating.
yeah, well, it's a broken system. Like I for one am glad that America has kind of become unrecognizable and unstable because it needs to fall apart. It you can't, especially where it's at now, you can't come back from that with the system that got you there in the first place.
No.
I
Well,
mean,
especially
generally
how
that's kind of the rule anyway, right?
it
Like
is, yeah.
you can't,
And you have corruption that just grows over time. Um, like the structure becomes more and more complicated and
yeah,
like to the point where you just can't fix it.
yeah.
And
If your
now
ladder rotted and you fell back into the hole, you can't use the ladder to get out.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's true.
think
No,
outside the box,
that's a
man.
good analogy. I have another one too. Where we're at right now when it comes to political divides and stuff, essentially you've got a house that's burning and you've got two neighbors that are sitting there with hoses and buckets of water that they could be putting the fire out, right? But
Mhm.
they're blaming each other. They're like, well, it was your box of oily rags that started that fire. And you're like, well, no, it was your Christmas tree lights strung together on that dry ass Christmas tree from last year. And
Exactly.
and it's like, okay, fine, you can sort that shit out afterwards. But for right now, there's a fire.
Yeah.
Well, let's put the fire out and then figure out. We probably doesn't. Once the fire's out, it probably doesn't matter. But I mean, that's kind of where we're at, I think. And
That's one of my pet peeves is like people, and this is one that comes from the left a lot, is like we can't fix this until everyone is acknowledging this is the problem. And it's like, who, what, why does it matter who and how many of us are acknowledging what you think is the problem? Why don't we just go and try to fix whatever it is we see broken? Like
which is what used to happen. It,
everybody sees from a different perspective. And if you see something that's broken, it probably is broken and needs to
mm-hmm.
be fixed. So this comes back down to this whole like tunnel vision with fixing things. Like we can only work on one thing at a time. And it's like, no. That's a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, and I think politics is the caustic substance
Mm-hmm.
that makes it difficult to solve problems as a community, as a culture or a society. Um, and that now it's become like your political stance or how you vote or whatever has become the point of contention rather than just simply, oh, this is the way I think things should be done or whatever. No, now it's almost like dehumanized
Yeah.
everybody to the point where it isn't just like an individual with individual views and experiences. No, it's like the two factions that are hive minds essentially, or at least that's how people are led to perceive those things, and they end up doing that. I mean, this has been going on for quite a while, and it's just getting worse,
Yeah.
and to the point where people just, like they don't even listen. If you have a counter argument and you have a different political view, that people won't even listen to you. It's just immediate heat and smoke coming your way. And it's like, okay, well, how can we expect to get anything done if that's all we do is fight all the time?
Voters are goddamn idiots.
Yes.
It it really bothers me that there's always been this campaign to get out and vote,
Mm-hmm.
as if that's all that matters, is just putting your opinion out there on these really important things. And doesn't matter if you've got any clue what's going on, just vote.
Well,
Well,
a lot of voters are straight ticket. They just like,
yeah,
oh, D's are ours. They don't even
exactly.
they don't
That's
even
not doing any
consider.
good.
No,
I
no,
consider that a wasted vote.
you,
That to me is a wasted vote. If you stripped away all the people that just went down the line and looked at the, I don't know, like 150 or 200 people in the country that probably actually research before they vote,
mhm.
you'd probably see a whole lot different results.
Yeah. Well,
Probably
actually,
often third party persons winning. And um, we have a comment. It would be nice to have a class on Ho.
oh, maybe it's supposed to be there. I think it's an incomplete sentence. Probably how.
Sounds like the start of an 80s rap.
Oh,
Class on hose.
how to read a voter's pamphlet.
How to
Yes,
read a voter's pamphlet. Oh, yeah.
and I agree. And
Yeah.
now one of the, here's a wild thought, and of course there's going to be, oh, I'd get a lot of flack for this opinion, but I think that not everybody should vote. That it should be people who are aware of things and have researched things, well-read individuals who kind of know what's going on, making those decisions. Maybe even a test you have to take to become a voter, and maybe even like you have to re-up it so that basically to indicate that you know what's going on at least somewhat. um, because yeah, most people vote blind. They don't
Yeah.
they don't research anything. They don't care. Some people, it's just like, oh, that guy looks nice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about testing, but I do like the idea of making voting day kind of like a public holiday sort of
I
situation.
agree.
And you could have just, you know, make there be plenty of places accessible, even have some like mobile locations, and you could just have like TVs on in the lobby with, like, oh, so and so believes this and their opposition believes that. And, you're standing in line waiting to vote, and you're just kind of like soaking in some information. And you don't have to vote about everything either.
No,
Just like the things you
that
care about, the things you know about.
that right there should be everybody who votes on their the ballot. There should be one blank spot at least, where it's like, well, if you can't decide, don't decide. Just leave it alone. Or
Yeah.
if you don't know anything about it and you haven't looked into it, just don't check a checkbox.
Yeah. There's no
You know?
teacher grading these. So you can totally leave it blank. You can turn it in entirely blank with your name on it
Yes,
and
you can.
just say, I don't like any of this shit.
Yeah. And that right there is actually a pretty good statement too.
Yeah.
I wish that was counted. Like more people be aware of those
Yeah.
ballots. The conscientious objectors, I guess. Um,
I mean, that would be good at actually if they reported that,
mhm.
like so and so for the blue team has this many votes, and the red team has this many votes, and the independent has this many votes, and there were this many people that were sick of all that bullshit.
Didn't even check a box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we have another comment too. The part most people ignore is the fiscal impact statement. Yes, yes. I mean, that is a factor to consider.
I
Well,
mean,
there's
that's
a
one of
lot of things.
the easiest things to comprehend too.
It,
Like, oh,
yes.
that's a lot of money, or that's a lot of money out of my check,
Well, and you
or
can, yeah, exactly. I mean, because everybody like spends money, some money. So like you can kind of weigh that, put it on a scale, and yeah, and look at like the work being done, or like let's okay, well, yeah, I think this is in regards to like authorization for taxes or projects or whatnot. Um, but you can look at like the work that is proposed to be done versus how much it's supposed to cost and be like, okay, is that reasonable? Is you know,
well, I just had a good idea regarding the fiscal end of things.
mm-hmm,
On the voting pamphlet, you should have your like for an initiative or whatever, like a
mm-hmm,
yes or a no, or a you know blank. I don't want to say anything, but then also have a little checkbox and a little box you can like write some info in and be like, I'd like to put my hat in the in or name in the hat, for a bid on the job. I'll do it for less.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I have a company that does that thing and I'll do it for less, like,
Mm-hmm.
why
Oh, that
not?
whole process too is kind of a mess of how like contractors are hired for things, and
Yeah.
it just gets more and more and more expensive. And I see road projects. I mean, hell, in Washington State, there are areas like I-5 corridor areas that have been under construction for like 30 years.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, but this area is now under construction for 3 decades, whereas the area up there was under construction for another 3 decades. And they finished that project. And then now they're moving on to this. And it's like, how does it take that long? I mean, I would, so this, I, I was actually going to try to put this information together, but it's very difficult to, uh, to get the information because of how long ago it was. But to compare today's road projects and timelines and costs and things like that with the building of the transcontinental railroad, because that shit was put together super fast, and it didn't cost that much money compared adjusted for inflation compared to what like even just like a bridge costs.
Yeah.
and
You can't
and
just
that's
look at inflation for stuff like that with that much time in between. There's so much more than just inflation in the economy
no,
that
no,
that altered
no, this is
things.
true. Well, actually, well, transcontinental railroad, you really didn't have steam power, kinda coming on the scene. The Panama Canal would be a really good example. Um, a lot of stuff was done by hand with like picks and shovels and shit. Um, and yet it was done in a pretty timely fashion, all things considered. Now we have diesel powered heavy machinery that can do. I mean, there's that crazy ass thing that's kind of scary. That like six-legged spider thing that crawls through woods and has an arm on it that can grab a tree and chainsaw it and then just roll it through this thing and strip it down, and like all automated. Like we have more technology that should make things faster, easier, and cheaper to do. Yet somehow it isn't. Like, well, wait a minute. What we have Star Trek level technology compared to what the people in the say 1800s, early 1900s had, and yet somehow these projects take so long to do.
Yeah.
Like
They're just milking more money out of it, I
they,
think. Like,
they are, and that's where I think voters, the citizens, and politicians, we need to hold people more accountable. Like, don't just like sit there and be like, well, I guess that's how it is. I guess I'm slogging through traffic because they've reduced all this down to one lane for the last 3 years or whatever. No, people need to be. If there's anything you should be protesting, is that
I
protest that shit.
there really is no accountability for that I'm
No.
aware of. Like
Mm-mm.
if you see waste happening within the government, it just happens, and
Yeah.
nobody can do anything about it.
Nobody suffers any consequences for making dumb decisions. And like basically the worst consequence you could get is maybe an article in a newspaper that's negatively focused, or you just don't get voted in again or whatever. But nobody loses their job. Nobody is cast out of society because of a big, huge, expensive debacle that they cost the
Yeah.
taxpayers.
2, 4, 6 years later, if people still remember, you might lose your job. Yeah.
And they won't remember because then it's on to the next thing,
Yeah.
and that's how
The
politics
whole
goes.
vote them out thing, like I I always laugh at that. It's like, good luck. Good luck with that. Um,
Well, and it goes back to uninformed voters. Like people, they're not aware of what's going on. They don't really care. And so the people who do know and do care, there's not enough of them to make a difference. It's like how the hell do we in Washington State, Jay Inslee was out, and then we voted Bob Ferguson of all people in. It's like what? What the hell? But then you have like Sound Transit, all that whole quagmire. Ugh, Jesus. Um,
eh.
so much money wasted and very little done. And well, you have in California, there's the rail system, the high speed rail system to nowhere. I can't remember how much they spent, but I think it's like $100 billion a mile or something, and it's not even done. That
There's
I'm
a
probably
comment
wrong
here.
on that.
It's because the guidelines keep getting changed, and yeah, like bureaucracy has a lot to do with slowing things down too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where what we were talking about in the beginning is like, okay, well, this system is so complicated and so entrenched and so huge to be impossible to fix. Like you're not going to be able to fix that, and certainly you're not going to be able to fix anything by voting. You know, no. I always
The two-party system that isn't really two parties, let's face it, um, isn't
yeah.
really working to with the best interests of the country in mind, and that's why you can't recognize America anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is because we we let the two-party thing fool us for too long,
Yeah.
to the point where it just blended into elites controlling everything,
Yes.
like lining their own pockets, lining their buddies' pockets, and
Mm-hmm.
doing it all at our expense, and then getting us to blame each other for voting for the wrong colored team.
Yes, this is true. And that's why we're in that situation. I mean, basically, it's like there's a party house, um, and every 4 years, they paint it with a different color. So they paint it blue one year, they paint it red later. But meanwhile, they're not doing anything. They're just partying it up inside the house, and it's falling apart and getting all. But then they're like, well, hey, it's all falling apart because the other guys that were partying would ignore the fact that I was partying with them, but they're the reason. Um, and that's why the house needs repair. So if we just put another coat of paint on it, then we'll fix it all up. And yeah, for a minute it looks nice, but then the rain comes and the rot is exposed, and
Yeah.
then the blame game continues.
The biggest cognitive dissonance I see is, when it comes to tax and wasted tax revenue, and where can we get more tax to do the things that we need, and it was such a successful brainwashing campaign to somehow make it so that we want to protect the rich and give them tax breaks. And it's like, look at the 1950s and look at other countries that like base their revenue on having like, if you have more money, you should pay more money. Like, at what point are we like, wait, now you shouldn't be paying so much money? Like, how does that even make sense?
Well,
You know?
I mean, technically, the 1% pays like 40%, or maybe it's 90% of all tax revenue. But whatever the case, that's like,
But that's of the revenue that we're raking in, not of the revenue that we could be.
well, it costs
And I'm not sure that that number is even close to accurate. But
all right, let me ask you a question. How much does it cost to run the federal side of the government for one day? One day, just one day.
I would not have a guess.
It's around $18 billion now.
Yeah.
So $18 billion, which, think about that. Where the hell is all that money going? I see, like, I don't think we need to tax more. We need to be more responsible with where we spend money. And honestly, there's a lot of fat we could cut off of this and actually do way more. Like,
but this is the problem we've been talking about. This is the exact problem we were talking about at the head of the show. Oh, that's not the problem. We got to focus on this problem. They're both right.
yes,
We absolutely should not be wasting money. But like, yeah, if you make 100 million and you pay like 10 million in tax, yeah, that is a lot of tax revenue. But like, you still have like way more money that you don't really need. And like, the point is that we're all humans. We should all care about each other, and we shouldn't be so friggin' selfish. Like,
I agree. And I think that comes down to, because I'm a person who believes we should reduce taxes. I really love the idea of getting rid of income tax and having it solely tariff based, which we used to have. The entire federal government was run on tariffs alone for some time.
or just
And
have income tax for people that have really big incomes, and the rest of us just do the
which
tariff thing or whatever. Yeah.
wouldn't you know it, in 1913 when they instituted that, that was the case. Only the top 1% of income earners paid tax. Nobody paid tax. And then, of course, well, the bloat of bureaucracy came in, and now everybody's on the hook for it.
Yeah.
And of course, the spending increases. Like, okay, look, and that's not just adjusted for inflation. That's just like, okay, if you adjust for inflation, the spending increases. That's what I mean, not just dollars.
Like,
And
yeah, if you're on the lower end of income, like, you really shouldn't have to pay any income tax at all. It doesn't make sense. Why should you be paying into the system that you're depending on to live off of? Because there just isn't enough tax money to go around.
What
So
about
you're paying tax to pay yourself food stamps? Like,
this is the one that blows this is the one that blows my mind the most, is people receiving Social Security pay tax, income tax on that, which it's like, wait a minute, you paid tax, like a compulsory tax, to go into that pool so that you can use it in your retirement years, and now you're paying income tax on tax that, dude, okay, that's stupid. But there's a lot of
retire, it'll be like 84% on the dollar or something.
I'm not banking on receiving any Social Security at all. That whole thing is insolvent. Like, there's no way, unless something drastic happens, which of course it never will, because everybody complains when somebody wants to do something, and it's like, everybody says, oh, we should do something, and then when somebody tries to do something, they're like, oh wait, don't do that. But okay, but we got to rip the Band-Aid off, bitch. At some point we got to be like, hey, this festering wound here, it needs to be cleaned. You can't just keep sticking new Band-Aids on it and thinking like, I guess there's nothing wrong because I can't see it. Like, no, we've got to take care of things. And I think the division is a major factor, that because it used to be like, this is going back to, is America back in the earlier days. Even in my youth, I remember this. Like, you had political divides, but everybody kind of generally agreed on like, hey, these things are things we ought to take care of. Um, but they disagreed on exactly how to implement the solution. Um, but now it's just like people are yelling and screaming at each other because, oh, you don't care about this thing enough, and no, you don't care about that thing enough. Like, okay, well, meanwhile, that house is, yeah, it's painted red right now, but it's on fire.
Mm.
What, like, let's grab the hoses and buckets and put the fire out. Let's solve the, like, it
Oh,
doesn't.
we got a good comment here.
Mhm.
Jennifer says, my mom is considered quote unquote wealthy because she is retired and living on the proceeds of the family trust. She paid 60K for income tax last year because she needed to spend money from the trust to live, and she lives very modestly. Yeah, this is like the middle class problem where
Mhm.
like, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, it would make a lot of sense for people that really don't have expendable income at all to not have to pay any income tax because you're still working, you're still contributing to the economy, you still earn exactly all of the benefits that you would reap
Mhm.
if you paid income tax because you're still paying sales tax and you're, money moving through the economy is more important than money invested in businesses and stuff like that. Like
they're,
it's
they're, they're both important, but yes, I agree that it's much more valuable to have money
mhm.
moving. That does the most, that has the most benefit.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess kind of what I was getting at and is that the waste is a huge problem because like we have enough money. The amount of revenue that say the US government, the federal side takes in is more than capable of solving. Like you could address everybody's concerns all
Mhm.
at once. We have more than enough to do that. But instead, it's just like going to these bloated systems that the administration, I'd say get rid of anybody that works in an administrative position, acts 90% of them. Like, hey, we've got AI, we've got computers, we don't need, 10,000 people to administer a department. That's
Didn't
fucking
Doge just
stupid.
kind of do that? And then they were like, whoops, like real fast. They
Well,
were like, oh, actually,
well, it kind of did
we do
the
need those.
Javier Milei thing with the chainsaw, like indiscriminate cutting. Like, okay, whoa, 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 hold on.
Yeah.
We need to be a little more surgical about that. Um, which I think that's
Well,
something we should be doing.
yeah. I
But
mean, start with the obvious ones, though, like the big spenders, like the military.
mhm.
Like the
And
all the wars and shit that we're involved in. Like,
oh,
you know what?
absolutely.
If people in America are in need, then why are we spending money to go bail people out in other countries, like, or stick our nose in their business and make them problems that they didn't have before? Like, we shouldn't be doing any of that.
No, 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 no. Well, the CIA, while I think I don't have a problem with its existence in principle, as far as like espionage and keeping track of what other people are doing throughout the world, and just making sure nothing shitty is being planned. That's okay, but that's not what they do. Um, they're a very expensive agency. The amount of money on paper that goes to the CIA is nothing compared to what actually goes to them. You can research things like the black budgets and stuff like that. There's a lot more money going into the CIA, the NSA, various organizations that do some shady ass shit. Um, and essentially, yeah, fabricate these conflicts that, well, oh, what do you know? We're whoop de doo, we're now involved in it. And that's more expensive. And suddenly, Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, they're making billions of dollars. Uh, you know, like,
Yeah.
okay, why don't we stop that? I agree. Like the military could definitely be downsized quite a bit, especially if we just focused on being like a defensive sort of thing where we only react to things that are actual direct threats to the country and our allies. Sure, that's fair. And that could be way smaller than it is today.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of unfunded liabilities. That's actually the biggest chunk of a lot of the output, financial output. Well, that needs to be whittled down. Um, th- there's just so much waste, and I don't think you can just correct it. The idea of like, oh yeah, we're gonna take a chainsaw and just shut down this department and that department. It doesn't matter. We've talked about the shadow government. You know, there's systems in place that will remain once you cut the head off the Hydra. Um, like it doesn't matter. There's nothing we can do about it. And then they've whipped everybody into a frenzy politically, to where people aren't even paying attention to what's going on. They're just at each other's throats because they're on the other team.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know. We This is something we've talked about quite a lot. It's like, okay, well maybe it just has to shut down entirely.
Yeah.
That
Well, I
it's
mean, that that's why I'm such an advocate for finding finding a way around money, a way for regular people to exist and even thrive without depending on money.
I
Because you take the power out of money, you take the power away from the shadow government, you take it away from the elites and the corporations, and thereby the government, you know?
Well, I don't think it's the existence of money that's the problem. I think it's who controls that money. Where is it sourced from? Uh,
Right. But the control comes from the dependency on it. Like, yeah, it can exist, but we need to move away from the dependency on it so that it
well,
kind of loses its power, its value, you know?
the only thing that spawns dependency for money is just its usefulness. That it's like, okay, well, it's a fungible thing that you can exchange for stuff, right? You can do a thing and then you get this money, and then you can take that money and you can get something or do something else with it, and like, okay, it, that's all it is, and that will exist no matter what. That
Except for the exponential component of it. Like the more money you have, the exponentially more power you have. You know,
well,
when you have hundreds of millions to throw around lobbying and stuff, suddenly that power goes from affecting one person to hundreds of millions.
well, this is true, and that I guess illustrates the problem in that. Well, why do we have a system where that's possible? That Because then it wouldn't matter. Like, oh yeah, you could be a trillionaire and you can't really affect change because there's nobody you can buy. You
Right.
know, you can't buy. I mean, sure, you could buy stuff and look cool, make a cool ad for yourself or something, but that's about all.
Yeah.
Um,
Like yeah, I mean your point about the dependency of money being it just happens to be the thing that we use to get other things. That's a part of it, but if the things that we actually need to survive didn't require money, but rather depended on something else, whatever that may be.
mhm.
And we have a episode or two on some ideas on that. Um, but whatever that might be, that's the really important part. That if you get around that, if you make it so that money isn't required to get the things you need anymore, that takes the foundation out from under the house. Like without
I,
having to tear anything of the house apart, you just pull the foundation out and then bam,
well,
and it's already pretty unstable. It'll hold up for a while, but
in a
not
way,
gonna
that's a
last.
little bit of a cart before the horse thing, because I think the system, like the existence of the system, is what's holding that kind of thing back. Um, I mean, there's always going to be some need for a medium of exchange. I guess the problem that I see with it is who controls the issuance of that, and of course, it's the government. Well, it's quasi-governmental too, because you have the Federal Reserve behind that. And of
Yeah.
course, a lot of the tax, this is the other thing people they're not aware of. Well, look up fractional reserve banking for one. Also, look at how much interest the US is paying to the Federal Reserve. Um, and like, oh, basically, if you kind of add it all up, all the tax revenue that you and I and every US citizen pays federally just goes to pay the interest on our debt. That's a problem. That's why we can't get any work done. Because we're maxed out on our credit cards, and then every so often they're like, "Oh, raise the debt ceiling." Oh, look up the Go Remy video about that one. Um, that oh, that's a good one. The raise the debt ceiling rap, really good video. But yeah, we I think one thing that would probably not be that difficult to do. Actually, there's the concept of the platinum $1 trillion coin that the treasury could issue and just pay off the debt almost immediately. Legally, they can do this. Also, we need to go back to the gold standard, because the nice thing about that, I mean, it was not perfect, but it created stability, because you can't just materialize money out of the ether like the government currently does. It has to be tied to physical gold that has come out of the earth or been panned from a river or something like that. Like, you can't just make more. That's why Bitcoin, look at Bitcoin's exchange rate right now. It's crazy. And that's because there's only a finite number of coins that can be mined out of the blockchain system. And so it doesn't go down in value. It goes up essentially when it, like, relative to other fiat currencies and things like that. And that's good. We need, actually, we're in for a good dose of deflation, I think.
Yeah.
That would be
I feel like
imagine
gold just shot up too, I think.
it's $4,000 an ounce now.
Yeah.
And silver, uh I should, I don't know, maybe I'll
Silver's
hang.
pretty much hovered around 40 to 50 for, I don't know, 50 years now.
No, it's
It's
been
at
down to,
50, 52 or something
no.
right now.
In the 2000s, it was like $4 an ounce, and then during the '08 crash, it went up to $56 an ounce, and then it went down to like 20 something for quite a while, and now it's back up to somewhere in the 50s.
Yeah.
Um, but here's the thing: it isn't so. That's like spot price. That's the exchange for other currencies. What that tells you when you see gold and silver and palladium and rhodium and all these precious metals fluctuating, what you're seeing is not those things becoming more valuable or less valuable. What you're seeing is the currency that you're exchanging them for becoming more or less valuable. Like, when gold is $4,000 an ounce, that means the dollar is puny in
Mm.
value.
Yeah.
And so that's my point, is like, one of the ways we could fix the things, at least like something that could be achievable without total destruction, going to the gold standard again. Let's rewind to the 1800s, or early night, like pre 1913. Well, and then 70 something, when Nixon finally signed the Nix thing that got rid of the gold standard entirely. And oh, what do you know? Huh? Funny thing, it happened on the way to the White House. Immediately after that, inflation went through the roof. Prices went up. Like, it got nuts. Like, huh? How did that happen? Uh, so why don't we go back to that, to where the federal government can only issue currency it's physically tied to physical, like, finite material.
How does that work though, when there's all this paper money circulating out there with face value, and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you go back to gold standard and change it entirely? Now you've just created like one of these crazy economies where like everything costs like $10 million or
No,
something
you're right.
for an apple.
That you're thinking of like Weimar Republic and hyperinflation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing you can do is have a time period where you can take your old Federal Reserve notes and exchange them for treasury notes that are tied to gold. So those, it's like, okay, well, there's so many old dollars that are worth this many new dollars. You go to a bank, take all your money, or you take your account and just exchange it for that. And yeah, you're going to have a smaller dollar amount. Like if you converted your account and you had, say, $10,000 in there and initially, you convert it and now you have $500, but it's actually has more buying power and it's more
I would
stable.
just kind of thinking out loud here, like my thought on one way that you could kill two birds with one stone and kind of close the gap on some of the income equality is to say, okay, we're going back to the gold standard and we're going to set the bar at the amount, like the dollar amount of currency that was in circulation when the gold standard went away, going back to that. So all of the extra money that we printed is invalid. So you come and turn in your money, and there is a minimum amount, whether you even have this much money to turn in or not, that you will get back in gold standard notes that you have to live off of, enough to like put something in your nest egg, enough to live for a year, blah, blah, blah. And we just kind of start over from there. Whatever's extra up, like minus all the money that just kind of got deleted, then you get extra. So the rich people are still richer than the poor people, but nobody's actually poor anymore. Like we kind of
Well,
start over where everybody's afloat, everybody's head above the water, and then see how that works. Like it probably works just fine.
and that's an interesting idea. I think so. Income inequality is not really the problem. It's poverty. Poverty, because like it doesn't matter. I don't care. I have two vehicles, okay, and that works for me. I've got a pickup truck and I've got, well, I'd say a car, but it's a Scion XB, so I don't know. It's a tiny bus. So I have those two things, and that's good. If somebody has a bunch of Lamborghinis or Ferraris and they've got like Jay Leno's garage full of cars, I don't fucking care. I'm good enough with the cars. It's when you don't have any car and you have a commute and you have a crappy ass bicycle and you can't afford to get anything else and it's raining. Like
Well, yeah,
that
but except
that's the
the definition of poverty now, you could still have two cars and still be in poverty.
which
Like,
actually points to like the industrial revolution and how that changed things. Like poor people now live better than kings back in the Middle Ages. Like you're actually, well, maybe not the poorest of the poor, but the average kind of like living in poverty person has more, like they're better off than kings back in the day. So I mean, that's good, but I want to see that rise. And the way we do that is to stop inflation. And the only way we're going to do that is if we get rid of fiat currency and go back to the gold standard. So for a minute, it's going to be all wild and woolly for a while as things adjust. But once it stabilizes, now incomes can rise above instead of having to chase that inflation rainbow constantly, which we're doing. And
yeah.
the official government numbers on what inflation is are a lie. I will say that it is
Well, forcing
much
inflation
higher.
is stupid too.
Yes, yeah. The Federal Reserve has a mandate to have a 2% inflationary rate. Like what? So you're telling me if I save money that I'm losing purchasing power And you're doing that on purpose?
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Hmm.
No. We need to. Well, and the thing is too, it's like this goes back to the waste and all this stuff. It's like the frivolous expenditures because they can literally just materialize money out of thin air. Just add zeros on a computer.
Yeah.
Like they say print money. I mean that really isn't being done. This is accounting mumbo jumbo happening behind the scenes and stuff. They're just moving the decimal place essentially. And meanwhile, the federal government, the Treasury, is more in debt to the Federal Reserve, which is kind of not beholden to the U.S. government. So how is that? What's going on there, huh? People need to look into that.
Yeah.
And it's like
total
this is the reason everybody's so frustrated and struggling so much and stuff. And it's like, yeah, why don't we focus on that, huh? Because this is something the left and the right and everybody in between can agree on is inflation sucks unless you're one of the elites. If you're a banker, if you're the government, whatever, oh yeah, inflation is great. But if you're an average person just working an hourly job and stuff like that, no, it sucks because it's like, well, it can't even save money. I thought about this for a long time, like because like in my dad's era, you could save money, savings account, you save money, you could buy a house cash, which a lot of people in his time did. Good luck doing that now. I can't even save enough money for the down payment because the prices are like accelerating beyond my income increase.
Yep.
And then inflation too. It's like, well, I can't save money because now everything's getting more expensive. So instead of putting aside $100 a month or something, now it's only $50 or maybe nothing because it's like, ah, shit, all this stuff is getting expensive. Like, okay, why don't we stop that? Why not? Why don't we just make that go away? And it's very easy. It can easily be done. It's kind of a bipartisan thing, but there's a lot of elites who stand to benefit from things being the way they are, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to stop that from happening. Look up Lincoln and the greenback. Look up Kennedy and the silver certificate. Both assassinated. Interesting. And then they come up with some kind of phony reason why, like, oh, I must have been some kind of fanatic that just fucking killed him. Like, could it also be that he was trying to step on the toes of the elites and like make things better for the people?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting all fired up now. But this is something that I feel passionately about because,
and that's why I say the only thing that could ever work, that could ever make the elite beast actually bleed, is to make the money that it derives its power from, its Gelfling essence, it just make it useless, like.
And that, well, the only way to really achieve that is to change hearts and minds, which I believe, and when it comes to just walking away from the political system entirely and just turn your back, just don't participate. And we have technically we have the power to do that right now. We have things like Bitcoin and Ethereum that are pretty stable, pretty valuable, and easily usable in today's time to buy things. So all we have to do is just use it and be like, well, fuck your Federal Reserve notes. What the hell is that? That's phony money. That's like monopoly money, man. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I would say also add in like a barter system too, like Saturn barter that we messed around with for a while. Like that is a good use of technology to solve a pretty significant problem. But then, oh well, the IRS they're like, well, that's equivalent to so many dollars. So you owe us so many dollars. And you're like, well, but I didn't even get dollars. What do you want
Yeah.
me to pull them out of my ass?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
That's why that sort of thing didn't work. Like they were trying to run like a business in the capitalism system that kind of subverts all that stands for
Mm-hmm.
and somehow still be legal. So it was
Yeah.
I think they're still in business and I don't really
I,
know how
no,
because
they
like
are, because it's still functional, but yeah, you do have to still take somehow materialize some dollars to pay tax
like
on
they yeah, they
the
must have
credits.
really increased their pool of participants too because there
But
wasn't really a whole lot that we could use
I know.
from what they had to offer,
And that's
like
that's too bad, because a system like that could be really functional,
mhm.
really, really functional. And it's also sort of outside the system in a way. It's kind of community based, which is good. Like we need a hybrid system, I think, for one. And I would say, hey, yay, Mr. Trump, you're taking the chainsaw to 3-letter organizations. Why don't you start with the fucking IRS? Just cut that head off right there. And then go ahead and work with the
They'll go for
Treasury.
that pretty soon, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because that's part of Project 2025 is get rid of the IRS.
Well, and if it's replaced with the fair tax, that's at least kind of an interim solution that's not so bad. Um,
I don't
also,
think I don't expect them to replace it with anything better.
no, no, you know how that works, of course,
Yeah,
yeah. They're like, well, we're gonna get rid of
it's
this
only going to
shitty
be
thing.
there to hurt the poor people.
Well, that's how governments do. Like, oh yeah, that shitty thing. Yeah, we'll get rid of that. And then, well, here's another shitty thing that's a little shittier. Actually, it's a little more
Mhm.
juicy. Yeah.
Yeah, I always go back and forth on the fair tax, and I don't know. I haven't read whether or not they've updated it or had any new ideas, but um, the argument against it that it hurts the poor because they end up paying more in tax than the rich do. It's like, well, the rich don't pay that much in tax anyway, so like it's not
Well,
really hurting them. It's just not changing that
it
much.
would
Like
it
it
would
doesn't really solve that problem.
no,
Um,
no, and I mean, I don't necessarily identify it as a problem, but I guess it could be. And so, but the fair tax would take care of that, because it's a sales tax. So when a wealthy person buys a yacht, well, they pay sales tax, and now they're adding another 20% for the federal side on that. You can't not pay sales tax. So there you go. Also, there's the prebate. So you get like a chunk of change. Everybody gets it every year, or whatever, or monthly or something. So it's almost like a UBI of sorts,
mhm,
which, hey, that's kind of interesting. Why not? And also, it's a tax on new goods and services. Okay.
mhm,
So people who don't have a lot of money might go, like, let's say you went to Goodwill or Value Village or some thrift store or whatever, and you bought, that's used, or you bought something from Craigslist, that's used. You're not paying sales tax on that. So there you go. And if people want to, protest the taxes, they could just be like, I'm never buying anything new. It's always
yeah.
going to be a used car.
And that's the thing that I feel like is probably one of the roadblocks to the government being okay with it because they would want every sale to be taxed.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they would probably not let it through without changing that about
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Yeah.
that's the ultimate problem is the government is always in this compromise mode where they because it's a two-party system and everything is fucking polarized, all
But
the
it's
best
also a
things of
uniparty
everything
too.
get chipped away by the other side of
Mm-hmm.
whoever proposes it. And then a shitty thing gets rolled out. And then each side is pointing their fingers at the other side for how shitty it is. And
Mm-hmm. I would say yes. Well,
Like the
and
Affordable Care Act before it got chipped away was really good. I
well,
remember reading like the whole thing and I was like, wow, that actually makes a lot of
I
sense. There's
think I
public
still have a
option and blah blah blah. Like
I think I still have a printout of all like 1100 pages that I had to print out double sided and half page, like 2 pages per piece of paper, a side of piece of paper. Um, well, okay, here's the thing, and maybe this is something that could unite people. Um, that we have this idea that the government is there to benefit us and it has an interest in doing so. And well, all you have to do is analyze the track record. When has the government ever done anything that benefits people in any kind of major way? I'm not talking like little things here and there. Oh, like here's a nickel, kid. And then they scruff your hair. Like, oh, yeah, good job. No, like any kind of significant improvement where things you're like, wow, that's a lot better than it was. Holy crap. And the government did that.
yeah.
That has never happened
Well,
ever.
that's because of what we're talking about. Because
And but that's my
all the good
point.
things that get proposed get chipped away to bullshit.
Well, because of the elites and the system and the shadow government going on behind the scenes, pulling strings, like they, and this is why. Well, this is the thought, and maybe this is a revolutionary thing, I suppose, that we need to stop looking to that system to be our savior, to be our benefactor, and look to our neighbors, our friends, our communities, and recognize the government for the evil that it is. Like, stop playing that stupid game. Stop voting. Stop participating. Don't argue with somebody because they have different political views, because it doesn't fucking matter. Like sports, like it really, it's a show. It's a sham. It's a scam. Like, and here we are spinning our wheels, running around, yelling to the sky, pounding the beach and stuff. Kicking at the surf and being like, get out of here. Like, why? Why not? We need to Aikido this, I think. And the only way we're going to affect change is if we can work together and
Yep.
understand that there's going to be disagreements. Everybody disagrees. That's fine. You know, all you have to do is look to food as a good example. I mean,
Yeah, like compromise is important and necessary for people to work together and get along.
yeah.
But when you go about things the way the US government does these days anyway,
Yeah.
And you squabble over things and you shut down the government and throw your tantrums and try to get your way, but in the end it always comes down to, like chipping away at your good idea or whatever until it's like a shitty idea.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it should be approached in a different way where it's like, okay, we want to put this into action. Here's what we think won't work so well and what we would like to propose as an alternative, but we'll run it your way for a couple years, come back to it, evaluate it, see what happens, see what worked, what didn't work, and take a look at these ideas that we came up with, try to project whether or not they would be better or worse, come up with some new ideas, and then agree on something together to put forward and have
Yes.
it like honed in,
I no,
with
I
actual scientific evidence now.
no, that's a good idea, because that's kind of following the scientific method, engineering and stuff. So we have proposals and we're like, well, okay, we need to put this in a petri dish and see what grows, right? Like, how does this, what, like, because we don't know. Everybody thinks they know, and nobody fucking knows. If you think you know the answers, you don't know. Okay, it's like Richard Feynman said: if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics. I'm
If you don't
paraphrasing it.
know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not how
But
that went.
but like the only way we're going to find out an answer of like what works and stuff is to conduct experiments. And we don't need to do this on a national level. We could do it on like a state or city level or something like that. Just be like, okay, there's these proposals. And obviously, well, okay, first and foremost, we need to have a vector. There should be like, okay, we're going in this direction. So everything needs to filter through that direction. Like improving quality of life, I think, is probably a way to distill that. Um, all of the things that people want down to one simple sentence. We want to improve quality of life. And so, okay, that's our goal. That's what we're going to work towards. Everybody doesn't know. Everybody's got a bunch of ideas. Most of them are probably dumb and won't work, but that's okay. We need to test them. Look at, okay, back in, oh, was it 61 when Kennedy gave that famous speech about we're going to the moon by the end of the decade? And very inspiring speech. It's right up there in the, for me. Um, and of course, at the time, I think it was NASA by then. It was NACA before, like a private organization, and then it was anyway. Um, but they're tasked with something impossible. Like, okay, we're gonna send human beings to the fucking moon. How the hell do we do that? And they had obviously never done that. In fact, at the time, the U.S. didn't have any, like they had barely sent people to space. I think Alan Shepard maybe had made an orbit at the time, maybe. But so it's like, okay, well, we haven't even hardly been to space, and now we're tasked with going to the moon. How did they do that? They involved hundreds of thousands of people, a whole bunch of different companies, everybody tasked with doing this, also with the inspiration of like, hey, we have an opponent in this. We're going to beat the Russians to the moon. Actually, there was talk of a joint effort in like 63 of like the Soviet Union and the US working together to go to the moon. And of course, that was shut down by the powers that be. But nevertheless, it's like, okay, well, they developed things, they tested things, a lot of shit blew up, things like busted. Obviously, Apollo 1, there was a fire aboard that killed the 3 astronauts. Um, but they carried on and they kept improving and kept doing things and testing. And, of course, they didn't just, Apollo 11 wasn't the first rocket that they sent to the moon, obviously being number 11. But they did some orbital tests. They tested the docking with the LEM and stuff like that. And then they went to orbit the moon and did some stuff out there. And then eventually, oh, yeah, okay, we're going to actually land. And by then, they had enough experience and knowledge to where it's like, okay, we know exactly what to do here for the most part. And that's how, why don't we apply that same sort of process
Yeah.
to society?
Well, and I
Why?
like your idea of like have it all kind of first go through the lens or the filter of uh is this improving quality of life?
Yeah.
Like and and that way, these elites coming with all their money to lobby for shit, it's like, okay, you know what? Like, it doesn't really pass the first filter for improving quality of life. So we're going to kind of like back burner this. I'm sorry. However much money you
Yep.
throw at us, we have to like all kind of justify it on whether or
Mm-hmm.
not it's helping lift everyone up.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if it's not doing that, and if it's actually doing the opposite, especially like
Yes.
not going to happen. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, by the way, I mean, if you just look at like the government in the US and what it does, like everything it does is kind of the opposite.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, like I said, you'll get a nickel. Meanwhile, the other 95 cents goes to the elites and they get to party in the party house.
I tell
And
you
then,
what, by the time we get to like season 9 or 10, I think if people, if there was just like a class in high school where people just had to watch like the highlights of this show
mm,
and then, like go on to be the next generation of of forefathers and leaders and builders, like they would probably construct a very advanced society where
Yeah.
America once stood.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because we're talking things out, like
Exactly.
throwing ideas out there, and
Hmm.
nobody in the government is actually doing that. Like
No, no,
they're all
they're
like,
just
we've always done things this way, so we have to keep doing things that way, but maybe we can do other things in similar ways that just make things a little bit shittier for everybody, but make us more money.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, let's do that.
yeah, exactly. Hookers and blow, yay! DC, it's a great place. It's weird looking at DC actually. The 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 stark contrast because like a lot of the residents of DC are very poor, uh,
Yeah,
and then you have all these highfalutin elite people that are millionaires and billionaires, movers and shakers and shit, all in the same place, and it's like, wait, and that's the capital of the U.S., is it?
yeah, yeah.
Huh? That just strikes me as a little bit, I don't know, discomforting, um, as a symbol.
Yeah, yeah. It's a shit show. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to address the initial question that we started speaking about, is America anymore? Hell fucking no. Like,
No, I don't
clearly
think
not. Like, it's not what it was intended to be. And I mean, that is the thing. Like, that's the delineating factor.
so. Mhm.
Its intention and its actual like impact.
Yeah.
Of course, the government is intended to be there to do good for the people, but because it's a two-party shim sham, like shit show,
You're
like,
nothing but a flim flam man.
yeah, like it's guaranteed to just everything they do is just shit. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, exactly. Initially, the intention was quality of life,
yeah,
that people would be freer, they'd be able to do what they want to do. You can have opportunities where you would otherwise not. And I mean, I would say to some extent, America still kind of is. I mean, what really the beating heart of America is the people, and there's still a lot of good people out there. I would say most people are good, um, except when it comes to DC. That's a
yeah.
cesspool of rot, like Reddit and shit like that. Um, and,
DC dicks and cunts.
yeah, pretty much. Oh, actually, here the little petri dish for experimentation could be DC itself.
Huh.
That's where we test out things. Like, okay, if it works in DC, maybe it'll work in other places. And
I
in
see.
fact,
I
it's
see.
kind of in a unique position to be able to do that.
First, we test if our nuclear bombs still work.
Yep. And
So,
then we build up a better city.
yeah.
And well, I don't know bodies. What bodies? I was gonna say we bury the dead, but yeah, it turned to dust. And that would make a hell of a statement, I suppose.
That is catering opposite Olaf Peterson.
Oh man. Uh-oh. I
Huh.
got some kind of notification here. So
Like from Zoom or
yeah.
hmm.
Said preparing live stream. No, we're still streaming, I think, right?
As far as I can tell.
Okay.
But eh.
Well, we're probably nearing the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've once again successfully come up with some ideas that make the world better, and no one will hear them.
Nope.
Uh,
Well, and I'm noting actually that when the little change notification where it was like, oh, connecting and stuff came up was when we were talking about destroying DC. As usual, somebody's,
We
we
made
don't
it on a
have,
list.
yep. I guess, hey, hi there, people in the
Yeah.
NSA. Hey, I know you're watching.
Yeah,
Uh,
now that you're listening, the people are on to your bullshit
mhm.
and they're coming for you. And yeah, that is a threat.
Yeah.
It's
Tell, yeah.
um yeah,
Tell your colleagues,
come get me.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of insulated there.
Yeah, yeah.
Me, not so much. But still,
If I
nevertheless,
stepped on enough toes, I'm sure I wouldn't be that
no,
safe. But
this is true. Well, yeah, Germany is a friendly country to the U.S., so
yeah,
they might put a sack over your head and
but
put you on a
I'm
plane.
definitely like not using as much of a filter as I would if I lived in stateside.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Well,
it's
and I
important that a person like me that has that leeway makes some noise,
sure.
because I have to speak for the people who are too afraid to.
Well, and I'm definitely no stranger to revolutionary thoughts, but I tend to lean more towards the pacifist side of things. Like, I think at the very least, we should first attempt a peaceful way to resolve these things and do a hard reset, essentially. Um, and I guess if that fails, then, well, okay, it's going to
I
be
mean,
the AK.
the reunification of Germany was more or less peaceful.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in the act of doing that, there was no bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
Leading up to it, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, they had obviously seen worse, but
Oh yeah, I would love to see North and South Korea reunified in that way too.
mm,
I mean, they would probably love it. It's just, again, the elites, the people at the top of the food chain, so to speak. Well, they don't want that because, well, hey, now you're going to have to answer for the things you've done uh, in North Korea. When the South Koreans come over and the North Koreans realize it was all a lie. Everything that was said by the the God leader was fabricated. It was all made up.
mm-hmm.
I'd have a lot of respect for him if he did it knowing that they would take him out and like hang him high. And he's like, for the benefit of my people, I'm going to suffer this consequence. That would be admirable.
Yeah.
But you're never going to see that happen because he doesn't give two shits about the people of North Korea. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
and that of course was also the U.S. was involved in that, obviously,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and not just the Korean War as we call it, but prior to that, like that was not an organic thing that just came out of nowhere. Uh,
When was the last time they were just one country?
50s.
Huh.
Or yeah, the 50s. Yeah.
I thought that war started in the late 40s or something.
It might have been the late 40s, but I mean, the division didn't really begin until later
Uh,
as things progressed. I mean, that's how it plays out. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Vietnam, same way. Funny thing, too, it's like, Vietnam is a good case study of like what you don't do in diplomacy. Because, like, oh, yeah, okay. There were a lot of people who were killed, a lot of expenditure, both monetarily and materially. A lot of shit was destroyed. And then it just went back to the way it is. You can go to Vietnam today and it's just like people are kind of going about their life. It's like, oh, Okay. Well, what the fuck were we fighting for then?
Cobra Man.
Yeah, I know. Like, oh, Jesus. And people forget about those things. And they forget about the causes and what led up to things and the actions that were taken on all sides. And just like, oh, well, I don't know, short memories, I guess.
I
And
would.
that's unfortunate because that those are the things that kind of color my rationale behind peaceful resolution. That like, hey, let's not pick up arms. Let's not begin with that, okay? Because I know how that story ends, and nobody's gonna like it. Let's start somewhere else. Conversations, pick
I
up a
just had
beer.
I just had a random thought about like time travel and butterfly effects. And you know, there's always the people saying, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and I'd kill Hitler or whatever. And I wonder if you went back far enough, I don't know, to like Middle Ages or even further, and just, well, no, let's just start with Hitler.
All
Let's say
right.
you went back to when Hitler was a kid or something, and you just made friends with him,
Mm-hmm.
said nice things to him, built him up, helped him with problems, just generally
Encourage his
like,
painting career.
yeah, just generally like do something, like just be a positive influence.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone is probably enough to completely alter the course of history, like the
Yeah,
decisions that he would make, and
that's a good point. What if,
yeah.
yeah, if you did that, then imagine, in the 30s and stuff, like Hitler would basically be in line with Gandhi. People would be exalting the name Hitler, and swastikas would be seen as a sign of peace.
I mean, I don't know about going that far, but
No,
like
but he could. That's the thing, is like, if you help somebody, because obviously, like,
it's enough to avoid like doing horrible things to millions of people, and
well,
scarring the
yeah.
entire world for generations to come with these horrible memories and history
Mhm.
lessons. And
Well, you would
uh
have to do that to a couple people in Germany to fully avoid that. But yeah, I mean, basically, we'd remember, people would be buying
but
Hitler
that's my point.
paintings.
If you're a time traveler,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to make differences and not do it in a violent way, that might work. But
Sure.
people always just go to like, well, I'll just kill Hitler when he's a kid or something. And like, well, yeah, I mean, that would work. I mean, he was like the figurehead and the, the demigod personality that,
Mm-hmm.
kind of drove everything. Just like, America wouldn't be where it is now without a Trump, or, like
Yeah.
North Korea wouldn't be there without that family, you know. But the course could be changed by anything. The flap of a
Yeah.
butterfly wing, like just
Mm-hmm.
something simple. Like you don't even have to spend your life dedicated to that. Just something, something that's meaningful enough and positive enough that maybe it changes that person's outlook.
I Okay, I like that. That's a very, very good thought. But I would say,
Be a good book.
why go back in time? Why not start now with the future people?
Yeah.
Like, all these people that, rather than, I don't know, stirring up trouble and creating more anger and hatred and stuff, spread love, spread joy, spread peace. Do it now. I mean, so far we don't have, as far as we know, we don't have a time machine, so we can't go back, but we can change the course of the future. And I think we ought to. Like, help people, be good to people. I don't know. I like that alone right now, it's like if people did that for a couple of years, if you were just like a generous and helpful person, if everybody did that for a couple of years, imagine what things would look like on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to shake your fist or raise your voice, if instead you spoke softly and carried a big stick, um, um, but instead you be good to people. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that, honestly. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Tough medicine for some people to swallow, though.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, they've been filled with anger and rage for so long that that's their happy place, essentially. And that's not a good place to be. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, boy. Geez, as usual, we've come back to like some kind of a state of enlightenment, beer fueled enlightenment.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since doesn't look like anybody's still hanging out with us, might be a good time to wrap up.
Yeah, that was a good episode, though.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Demcad gives this a look, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe he'll get some ideas from things that we've talked about here.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we could do some kind of collaboration. That's a thing on YouTube now. You can collaborate
Oh,
with other channels. I've always wished there was something like that, but yeah, now you can do that and like
that's
share
cool.
analytics with each other and stuff. So
Yeah, I'll have to shoot him a message and see if he'd want to. Like, I mean, he talks about prepping a lot, so that would be a good uh, thing to like a point of invitation, I guess.
hmm.
Yeah, crazy. I've been following that guy since like before we. Well, no, not before we started the business. It was somewhere in the middle, I think. But
Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah, long time. Man. All
Oh,
right. Well, everybody, I know nobody's here, but anybody watching in the future, in the year 2000. Oh, wait. I gotta do it right.
what are you pulling up there?
In the year 2000. I don't know if anybody remembers that from Conan O'Brien.
No.
Oh man. Well, those who remember it will get a chuckle. All right. Well, we do this every week. So, yep, on Sundays, maybe Saturday for depending on where you are on planet Earth. Um, who knows? But yeah. Well, thanks for watching. Leave your comments down there in the comment section.